Thanks so much for sharing this session of Dr. Plotzker's Mind. We have a new seating pattern at synagogue. It's actually gone through a few transformations. I had something to do last Shabbos, the first Shabbos that the new seating pattern was established. To say I didn't like it is not accurate. I disliked it. The way the chairs were set, when I looked from the reader's table, I looked at a semicircle. It looked like I was lecturing in a classroom. That's not Shabbos. Definitely not Shabbos. I had to look over chairs to see the ark. I had to walk in a more roundabout way than I'm used to get to the ark. This was not the way to go. There are speakers giving sermons. The speakers giving sermons do not look at you. They look off to the side. To be fair, utilization of space when space is limited can be quite a challenge. We have seating, but we also have other stuff. We have shelves, we have a talus rack, we have to store books. So, space is at a premium. But I was a little surprised at how much I actively disliked being at that table. I think ideally there are two focal points of the sanctuary. One is where the davening takes place, which is usually at a table or a lectern, and the other is where the Torah are stored. It's perhaps a little bit like Washington, D.C., where you have the White House at one end and the Capitol at the other end, with no impediments in between. Now, prior to this seating arrangement, there was an aisle that connected the table to the ark. Before that, it was a more traditional theater type arrangement with the table up front and a direct path from the table to the ark. I don't think the table to the ark pathway should be impeded by chairs or by any other distraction. The original default kind of theater type of assembly of the chairs had its own problems. The sound acoustics from the front of the room to the back of the room were not very good, resulting in a mismatch when the front and back of the sanctuary were singing at the same time. Probably people in the back had difficulty hearing some of the activity up front. So moving the table to the middle was a very good thing to do. Making it appear like a classroom, like a place you go to work, was really not a very good thing to do. What the new arrangement exposed, though, were different ways to move things, not so much chairs, but things. Some of the tables were moved to create more open space. The tallest rack was moved. What I saw after it was all done were objects lined across the wall when the natural configuration of the room really creates three different triangles that could be used a little bit better. The tallest rack would not fit the sides of the triangle, or at least they tried. It would be better as a hypotenuse, and the rest of that triangle can contain storage things behind the rack. The table stored some books that were kind of superfluous. Sitting in the back, I could not see them. Sitting at the or standing at the reader's table, I could not see them. Now, from the reader's table, I should be able to see the prompt calendar that tells me what month it is and what portion we're reading. To not be able to see that from the table gets a demerit. We have a box of Keepote that was stuck off in a corner. I don't know if anybody uses the Keepote. If they're going to use that table with the donated white tablecloth with the donor's name on it for books, perhaps the freestanding Keepote and doily boxes should be removed and put in a more utilitarian box kept on the table for as often as anybody uses them. To be sure, the original configuration left a lot to be desired, but of the three that have been tried, I much prefer the one prior to the current experiment, and was a little bit surprised at how much I actively disliked the new configuration. They did invite people to comment. I pulled the president off to the side after the services, along with somebody else who used the central table. Their observations were similar to mine, though not as strongly held. A fellow at the committee meeting where this was all decided gave me a heads up on how it was decided. I can accept that. Some of the people at that meeting take their turn at that central table. But if they ask for a vote, my vote is something else. Thanks so much for joining me for this session of Dr. Plotzker's Mind.